Folks, I've recently contracted a body language expert to get to the bottom as to why Ron DeSantis is so off putting to a great portion of the electorate. Let's break it down right now. Firstly, if you look at his body right here, you can tell that the moderator is asking a question or something like this, and you can see by Tim Scott expression and that he's not doing anything crazy. Vivek is doing a fake smile. Nikki Haley placid. Chris Christie's too fat to be able to tell what he's actually doing, aside from maybe lusting after food. Whereas you have Ron DeSantis here, and he has this like half smile. You have no idea what the hell is going on. He looks like he just shat his pants, and he's just trying to keep a stoic frame. We don't know yet. Here's a very high IQ interpretation of his awkward smile. So experts are saying that he can smile and that his smile is genuine, but it looks off, as if, you know what, the guy's programming is okay, but the machine in and of itself is broken, which is an odd duality, but it's true. And if you look at the writing here, you'll notice that a smile is supposed to be something called a Duchenne smile, in which the zygomaticus major muscle lifts the corners of the mouth, kind of like how the Joker does, right? And also that your orbicularis oculi muscle moves the eyes and rises above the cheeks and whatnot. But if you look at Ron, his smile only reveals the teeth, but his eyes aren't changing at all, which is a very awkward thing to deal with. And so when you pay attention to somebody's smile, it ought to be that you're also crinkling your eyes, and also your smile is also reflective of your emotion. Whereas in this case, he's just completely despondent. You can see his mouth moves. He tries to show teeth. He brushes them. Okay, you're not nasty, but you're off-putting for other reasons, Ron. And it's because your eyes aren't moving at all. It's actually really creepy now that you see this being replayed over and over and over again. Now, this is an aside because this also has tabulations about the other debate opponents. This is mostly on DeSantis, but this one's too funny to leave out. Tim Scott looks like a friend is the heading here. And what it tells you is that that's the vibe you're getting from this presidential candidate. Again, I'm trying to look for a guy who's supposed to run the army, have the nuclear launch codes, not a buddy, okay? And so when you say that Tim Scott looks like a friend, well, maybe he looks like a Barney side character, and that's kind of tragic, isn't it? All right now I'm going to use some schizo writing by apparently Dr. Jack Brown. So this is going to be full schizo territory, but you know what? This is actually accurate. So watch this innocuous video of him answering questions about something that doesn't really matter. But just look at his jaw. You see how it subtly moves, the hand posture. Look at how he moves the bottom third of his whole body. And more specifically, again, the jaw muscles, the lips, you see how he's moving around the jaw? It's a little bit disconcerting if you're actually paying attention, and we'll read as to why that is the case here. So this was June 1st of 2023, so he's had months to correct this, and yet he has not fixed these sort of problems. So if you look at this zoomed in image, right, you'll notice that DeSantis hard swallows at a question that's innocuous. And basically, his Adam's apple is also less apparent than most men, which might be a sign of him having low testosterone, or he's fat or something maybe. We don't know that yet. But hard swallowing in this case is a coping mechanism, and it's a tell for anxiety. And again, he has anxiety talking to some normal person, some reporter I've never heard of, and I'm somebody who's really politically inclined, and so I have no idea who the hell he was talking about. And so just imagine him talking to Xi Jinping, talking to Kim Jong-un, talking to Vladimir Putin, and is he going to hold up? If he's doing hard swallows because he's anxious, talking about LGBTQ issues with some whack job or whoever the hell reporter it is locally, then what makes you think he'll deal with these big issues going forward as president? You really can't see that happening. Or imagine him confronting Trump one-on-one. I think he'd get shellacked, smoked, and, mesquite cooked, basically. And, I mean, it's somewhat of a tragic thing, no? So, anyway, there's a second moment of hard swallowing. So, within 15 seconds, he does a hard swallow twice. Now, just imagine you swallowing twice out of anxiety. Have you guys ever done that? I haven't. Where you go, just like that. It's like very weird for sure for a politician. Okay. Now, look at how DeSantis answers this question. He starts with, it's interesting, ... The dictionary definition of interesting, basically he says it in a context that is highly sarcastic, accusatory, and aggressive. So it's just, he's off. Now, notice that DeSantis is holding his hands intertwined, the fingers that is, okay, in front of his groin. That is known as fig leaf or genital guarding. So if you look that's a little bit of, I guess, Freudian psychology. But the thing about Freud is that these heuristics are somewhat true in like 80% of cases. And so when he's putting his hands together, and they teach you this in elementary school, that you ought to keep your hands together if you're going to be fidgeting. And so think about it. He's a 40-year-old man, and he's still trying to control his nervous tics. Do you think Donald Trump gives a scintilla of a crap what's going on with his hand movement? You got to figure this out, okay? And so if you look here, the fig leaf or genital guarding posture is basically a body language manifestation of emotional discomfort and low confidence, which again, from DeSantis, that's not a surprise at all. Feelings of intimidation. So DeSantis displays his body language more than any other governor or presidential candidate thus far that we can think of. I mean, you can look at Obama talking to the Pope, who's a way bigger figure than some reporter that nobody knows about. And yet, Obama reserves this sort of genital ball cushioning for the Pope himself. Okay. So it's a very different thing. Anyway, Joe Biden in reference to this thing over here, whatever have you. Okay, fine. If you look at how uncomfortable he looks here, from 4 seconds to 18 seconds, so again, the beginning minute, you'll notice that DeSantis repeatedly moves his jaw back and forth. So if you look at his posture here, first of all, you'll notice that there's a ton of stress in his face. For a guy in his early to mid 40s, he has a ton of aging going on. He has the face of a detective that's about to retire who's 57 years old. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? Whereas he's just a governor in his early 40s from, who has Miami in his state. You would think he'd be having a lot of fun. Well, no, he looks stressed and beleaguered. And when you look at his jaw, you can tell that it's in front more than it ought to be. And he's not mewing. He's not trying to flex the jaw. No, he's just afraid. He's scared and he's anxious. Okay. So that's that sort of jaw movement. And we've already seen this. Okay. You can just tell what's going on. All right. So from the medical perspective, it's in high likelihood, according to this guy, that ostensibly that the jaw movement that he's been doing so rapidly in this context is only a secondary manifestation of potential medical conditions. And so part of that could be tardive dyskinesia, or it could be Tourette syndrome. He probably, it even notes that he doesn't have that in his history medically, which means that he's probably just anxious. So either you have a literal disease, or you're an 11-year-old with autism, or you're just anxious as a 40-year-old man. And again, to beleaguer the point a little bit more, he's talking to a nobody. Just imagine him dealing with Donald Trump, dealing with Gavin Newsom, dealing with anybody of political acumen. Just imagine. So if you look here, you can note that DeSantis had an elevated central forehead contraction simultaneous with a partial/subtle mouth smile, which is a very odd thing here. Just look at this. What sort of face is this? This is like faces of felt. I don't even know what I'm looking at. So again, why? So basically, this expression is characterized as him being arrogant, contempt, incredulity, and he's being smug as well. Interesting, right? So basically, you've got this going on too. Elevated central forehead contraction with a smile as well. So multiple different times you have this, I don't even know what to describe this face, but it's just kind of odd. Okay? So if you look here, he gets questioned, do you want Florida, or do you believe Florida is welcome to the LGBT community? He answers, have you ever been to places in South Florida? Note that DeSantis did not even answer the question he was asked, and said he spun his answer into another attack at Disney, which is his number one enemy for some reason, is Disneyland. Anyhow, moreover, notice the qualifier South Florida, implying that he thinks that perhaps Miami is accepting of the LGBTQ community, but the rest of Florida isn't. So again, interesting how he skirts the answer over such an obvious thing, where if you're trying to be a politician in common year, you have to be like, oh no, I'm okay with the gays. Instead, he qualifies it, which is odd because again, you're the governor, you're the alpha. You don't need to prove yourself to some nobody reporter that I don't know who the identity of that person is. But yet again, he's a people pleaser in that respect, or he's just scared of being honest and say okay, look, you're probably not going to be gay in Jacksonville and have a nice time, but you can go in Miami where they have a lot of sussy stuff with Mayor Sanchez or whatever that guy is over there in Miami. Anyhow, at 1:12, this is super creepy. And again, this gets so Twilight Zone, but here you are. We are the biggest haters of DeSantis on the internet. And if you look here, you'll notice that there's a little bit of facial sweating going on his mustache. Now, guys, can you recall a time when you've ever sweat from your mustache, but specifically right there, not the forehead, not anything? What could that possibly be? Well, he could be sick, probably not. It could be the lighting, but this guy's not sweating at all. There's nothing there on his face or on the side of the head or anything like that. So it's more likely than not that he's just anxious. So how is it that this random 40-year-old guy across from him is not anxious at all, interviewing a sitting governor of the 13th largest economy in the planet in Florida, yet he's the one that is scared and sweating? It tells you how bad his anxiety is. Multiple times in this video, DeSantis displays the index finger pointing forwards, of course, and this is extremely negatively received across all cultures because it's a rapport destroyer. And again, he's somebody who's trying to win people over in the election. Yet he's just it's an accusatory finger, by the way. Anyhow, Towards the end here, in summary, you have some possible theories as to why he moves his jaw so much, why he fidgets around. So one could be that he has a medical history that we don't know of, which isn't probably not true. We can X that out, scratch that one out. You have a secondary theory in which you could say that the guy is anxious and he's scared, in which case then he's unqualified to be president if he's scared of talking to some random reporter. I mean, I'm surprised he even has a wife. Like, how are you that nervous to talk to people? Like, how do you talk to women, Ron? Or does he submit a resume or something? Third would be ostensibly that he could be having cocaine jaw, which I doubt, only because, first of all, he hasn't been caught with that. Plus, like, if he did coke, you'd think he'd be a little bit more exciting, so to speak. So it's probably not even cocaine jaw, but it kind of proves that he just has this anxiety problem, and it's just out of character for somebody to be like that. For all those reasons and more, you can now understand why Ron DeSantis is so creepy with his body language, what's wrong with him, and I diagnose him unofficially as being an anxious ass loser candidate. He just doesn't have the mettle to be president. It's dead ass. I mean, you can't argue this. He gets nervous, sweating, talking to some reporter I've never heard of. Like, what the hell? It's like if you are supposed to be a Hall of Fame wide receiver and you're scared over a practice squad elevated cornerback across from you in man coverage, one-on-one with no safety help, and you're anxious. What the hell? So are you going to be Jerry Rice or not? No. Oh, I'm all scared. I mean, that's literally Ron DeSantis. So Ron DeSantis is scared of the hellfires that are waiting for him rhetorically as he's going to lose to Donald Trump in a blazing glory soon enough in the primary. So I'll see y'all in the next video. Adios.